rate decision. 10-year bond yield is currently just above 0.67%.
What happened here?
Needs to be a rate decision due out any time now. Still waiting the rate decision.
Here we go. Boop, 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 boop.
Unchanged across the board there for the ECB. No surprises. See if there's an initial statement.
No change.
ECB seeing the QE bond buying running to the end of September or beyond if necessary.
So they haven't killed QE.
Reiterating that we're running until the inflation path has sustainably adjusted, so no change in the language here.
Hopefully no snapback. Even had a little shot on the roll reversal. Ah, come on, it's stuck. Okay, now watch out for your big pivot. So I'm going to flip over to the 15. You should keep your eye on the 1. Watch your support and resistance lines. Like clearly, this could be an issue for Euro Yen.
Euro back above the 124 handle, up about 0.25% post decision.
Take a look here.
Needs to be changing the language on the asset purchases.
And then I want to expand this one out just because it's euro dollar. Yeah, a lot going on there. There's something sort of in this territory for show. And then even higher up, right? Cool. Which we already have marked. If you go back, you see what's happening here. And I think we talked about this on Monday. So it's Thursday now, right? Let me change the color here. I think we talked about this as a upward move, right, on the monthly.
Changing the language there.
And then, of course, within the pivot.
Increase any slight tweak here in the language there, increasing the phrase where any increase or extension of the bond purchases. The dealers taking note of slight tweak there in the language. That's why the euro is back above that 124 handle. It's one of the more conservative slight adjustments in the language.
Okay. So if you're trading the monthly now, okay, if you're trading the monthly, which is the setup starts here, as I just showed you, and the monthly target is way up here between
the German 10-year yield up about 4 basis points.
What is it?
Post announcement.
125.70 and 126.70. We're way up here is the target if you're doing the monthly swing. And you can see clearly that price has been bouncing along the monthly pivots. In the monthly pivot, there's one here, right? There's here. There's this one we just bottomed out on, so on and so forth.
So the change in the language is that the ECB dropped the line saying that they would increase QE if the outlook worsened. So that's the change in the language, that they dropped that line, that they would increase QE if the outlook worsened. Again, this was seen by analysts as one of the more conservative steps to be changing the forward guidance.
Beautiful. Look at that, huh? Gorgeous. Now 2618 of the first 1 minute candle. If you were quick, there was a roll reversal on that. Quick on the draw. I thought it'd be dead. He put the pips to my head, and this is what he said. Well, with that being said, it is.
Just to recap here, we're seeing the Boone future drift towards session lows 156.65 down 16 ticks. The low was 156.57. And the euro is slightly higher now, 124.23, after the ECB slightly tweaked their language in today's statement.
Okay. Thank you, TradeTheNews.com. All right, it is Thursday, the 8th of March, 2018. This is your daily Forex trading strategy session. Let me remind you that trading is risky, not appropriate for everyone. Your past performance, good or bad, it's not necessarily indicative of future results. Please stay small, stay humble, focus on the long term, and never risk money you cannot afford to lose. Hello, my name is Wayne. I'm the Chief FX Market Strategist for TradersWay.com. Thank you very much for being a client. We appreciate you. We do these sessions 7:30 in the morning, Monday through Friday here at Forex.Today. Except for tomorrow, I will be at FX Street hosting Trade Non-Farm Payrolls Live for the 143rd month in a row. And yeah, that's just about 12 years. If you're new, please show your loyalty and respect to these live events by becoming a client. Go to TradersWay.com and at least open a demo account. Give us a try. I think you'll be surprised. And then one day we'd like to be the prime broker to your successful Forex trading business. Cool. So going back to here, the ECB had the opportunity to kill what they're doing, and they didn't. Like, why would they, right? But still, and that's good because it's still game on. Still game on. So the first 1 minute candle, I mean, how many people have either read my book or taken one of the courses where it gives just a basic, simple outline on how to scalp it? Anybody? The basic event-driven strategy? Nobody? Does my microphone work? Hello? Doesn't work? Yeah, okay. So it works. You don't know how yeah. You don't know the high volatility event driven strategy? Yeah, all right. So the cusp of it is there's not enough time for a group hug. There's not enough time for a committee meeting, right? A high volatility event driven strategy is called a scalp. But the scalp isn't based on price. The scalp is based on an event, like a news release. So typically what we do is we let the first candle take off and we wait for a pullback. It could happen in the first 30 seconds. It could happen in the first, sometimes it happens like in the first 15 minutes. Well, usually let's say 3 or 4 minutes, and then more like 15 to 30 minutes, depending on the time frame you're trading. Now, a scalp should be on a 1 minute, right? And the idea is you get something like this. The other thing, when you look left, when you look left, you look at the old, in this case, support, and then you trade the resistance. So I'll cover this tomorrow at Trade Non-Farm Payrolls Live as well. I just assume, I mean, you should know this, right? But I'll cover the same thing because tomorrow's non-farm payrolls is also a high volatility event driven strategy, right? So anyways, if you watch this on the 1 minute, you'll see that it kind of did both. Now, let's see, let me clear this. Okay. This looks like a full candle, but I think you saw that it did this with, right? And then also, if you look this way, okay. The other part of the strategy is if you get a green candle at the initial response to the news, what percentage of the time are you allowed to sell at the release? If you start to see a green candle, what percentage of the time do you set up a selling scalp? Yeah. So that's that. So it took off. So the scalper's scalp, you know, the scalp that you do in seconds, came and went pretty quickly. I don't have enough time to draw things out and all this, that, and the other thing. All right. So plan B now. Plan B is a little more dangerous, but valid nonetheless. You still fib that sucker, but I would go from not the initial candle, but from the area of support. In this case, a monthly pivot. So I'd do it like that. I don't think we'd come all the way down to this role reversal, but there seems to be something going on here as well. And that doesn't kill my sweet spot. Okay, so you look for something like that. Now, the reason I say it's a little dangerous is the other way of trading this is the counter trend trade. And this has all been published, and I mean, none of this is like new information. I've been teaching it to thousands of people for a decade and a half, right? So anyways, it's all pretty new. The other side of this is the counter trend, the mean reversion, if you will. And that's where you say, well, I'm a bear on this. I don't believe any of this nonsense. And here are my areas where I would sell. Right? Okay, you see what I mean? So I had the opportunity to set this up as it was happening. The other one's too fast, but in this case, I'm ahead of the candle, right? And I'm putting this up because that's the counter trend, because that's where a bear would sell. Okay. And usually where people do bad is where they're chasing the green candle. Right? If you're chasing the green candle, that's usually where you lose your money. Cool. Did anybody sell it off the top? Where are my bears? Brady did. Okay. Anthony. Hibernating's fine, Nikki. Nobody said you had to be an event-driven strategist to make a living. Is anyone going to buy the dip? Yeah, that was Metallica. Didn't realize I was doing it until I was doing it, and then I'm like, hey, I'm playing Metallica. Anyone going to buy it? Uh-huh. So this whole zone I've marked off. If you were a bull and you wanted to take the second chance, that's where the second chance would be, somewhere between here and here. This is the sweet spot. Nobody? Nobody's willing to say it? Pete already did it. Pete. Nobody else? Your stop would either be below the 618 or below 100%. Well, it's not necessarily confidence, it's whether you're a bull or a bear. Okay. So, has anyone forgotten the one, excuse me, the monthly chart I just highlighted maybe 8 minutes ago? See, if you're a bull and you had a monthly trade plan, you're pretty sure this is going up another 250 pips. So you're looking for opportunities to buy dips. But you have to have the longer term vision, right? All right, so we're coming into a fib war now. If you didn't do it, you're already late. A bear is going to sell this. No, 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 no. What? Fib wars. Now, emotionally, I'm a bull. I think everybody knows that, right? I've been a bull for 1,000 pips. Actually, weren't we at like 108 or 107 or something? But anyways, so I guess I've been a bull for 2,000 pips, but okay. So I hope I've been clear. Let's clear this out. Bulls are buying in this zone. That's why I highlighted it. And bears are thinking here or here as a first attempt. They could sell here or they can sell here. We don't know which one. Okay. The first one would be very aggressive, and that would mean we'd probably come down at least 100%. Okay. I think bears would sell up in here as well. So it's the same trade to me. Let's say, let me redraw this. This higher trade, whether it's this or this, it's the same thing to me. Okay. And the bulls are just, that's just a 382. That's all it is, right? Okay. Now the cool thing is if you bought the 382, you could even move your stop fairly close now and just say, look, if it now collapses in this fib zone, in the fib war, you don't necessarily want to stay in. You're a buyer of this, but not if there's debate, right? You want to be a master trader, but you don't want to be a master debater. Now I want to, I think, yeah. So Katie says, wasn't confident that it'll go anyway. Well, you may be saying that because we've been somewhat consolidating. Let's say basically nothing's happened in a week. What were we waiting for all week? The ECB news, right? So, so there we are. So, you know, if you back yourself out, and this is really important, right? Because remember, some people think news is fundamental. News is news. News, they're events. That's why I call it an event-driven strategy, not a fundamental strategy. What is the fundamental strategy? What's the bigger information here? And maybe even swing. Like what is this bigger chart? This is a 4-hour chart, euro dollar. Okay. What's supposed to happen there? Don't look at anything to the right. Let's just say you're blind to all of this. Okay. What's supposed to happen in that circle? Bears take profit. True. So what's the first initial reaction that'll most likely happen in a scenario like that? And Guy, it's not sell. Absolutely not sell. What I mean is green candles. Okay. But we don't know if it's going to be a bottom or not, right? Especially if you're a bear. Okay. Now, what's the just if you were in here now and you took your profit, and notice it's like the last day of the month. I mean, not a coincidence, right? Okay. If you were a bear, again, still, when is the best selling pivot? The best selling pivot, let me clear this up now. That's what I'm trying to do. Best selling pivot is this one. And the first one is this one. So even here, you figure it'll go from 121.5 to a bare minimum of 123. Minimum. So it'll go, let's say, somewhere between 150 and 200 pips up. And then if there are bears, this is where they would sell, right? So it really comes in, you know, do you buy this as a bull? Yeah. And we did talk about it, right? Because this is the new M2. A buyer here now, I'm not talking about this circle, I'm talking about this pivot. We did talk about it before March 1st because we could see it. But anyways, if you were a buyer at this level using the March pivots, right, your target's here. Okay. So you have a weekly target zone on this week here. By the way, there's the, okay. Did this week, just now the week, did that behave the way that my swing trading theory suggests? No, these are weekly and monthly. Right. Yeah, perfect week. Cool. And look at this. This is the monthly M2 for the previous week. So there's just sort of like a reverse kind of week, reversed month. I mean, sorry, that's the MM2 combined with a weekly S2. Beautiful little trade. So it's interesting that if you were a buyer, is what I'm getting at, you could be targeting this in your mind, and your strategy for the month would be buying dips. You see what I mean? So in a news event, you could just simply be a buyer of dips. And this is where like Katie's like, well, I'm not really sure where it's going to go, which is fine. It's valid, in particular if you're looking at the weekly pivots, right? But at some point you should still say, well, I am a buyer of this pair. I don't like the volatility, or I don't like the resistance. But like the whole idea, like, well, I'm not sure where it's going to go, so I'm going to stay out. Well, it was someday, like Katie, if you're managing money, it's your job to know. Even if you're wrong, it's fine. So you're like, well, I'm a buyer of dips, but I don't like this volatility. Or I'm a buyer of dips, but I don't like to be this close to resistance. Or I'm a buyer of dips. I think we're going to go to 120, whatever it is, 126. Well, I just don't want to do it now, or whatever. But you should know where it's going. Even if you're wrong, it doesn't matter. At least you have intent, right? It's going to really shape the way that you trade. And I know I'm picking on you, but I'm doing it out of love, right? If you have an idea of where it's going to go, then you're going to be more confident on your entries, but you also know when you're wrong, so you'll take your losses more quickly. So I'd rather you have been a bull or have been a bear, and you know where it's going. And being wrong is irrelevant. So for example, if you were still a bear, I'm totally cool with that. I'm fine with that. You would have sold it here big time. You might have sold it here big time post news. That's the counter trend trade. Now, why would you be doing that? Because you saw it rallying and you're like, there's no way this is going up, right? And you could say, I still consider this a sell. Now, I think it's dangerous, right? Because remember, I think if there were bears, they would have sold it here. Okay? You might have noticed that yesterday or the day before that. And therefore, you would say, well, because we're out of the monthly sell zone, we must be doing something like this. Because if you were bear, bears should have shorted this a long time ago, right? Look at this. Does that look like a bearish trend down? No. So that's where you have to say, look, this is not bearish. There's nothing bearish on this chart. Sounds a lot better than I don't know where it's going, right? And again, Katie, I'm picking on you out of a necessity to provide everyone a lesson. All right, so your vulnerability makes us all stronger. All right, so what could we say about this then? Could we call this a range between the blue lines? Cool. So we're based on range trading, where's our target? Oh, I don't know, somewhere up here, right? If you're a swing trader, your target's up here. Oh, well, forget it then. Forget it. I mean, in your mind, they either add up or they don't add up, right? But I understand this is resistance. I understand. It's weekly resistance. Okay. But, right? The weekly central is the bottom. all things being equal, meaning throw out the ECB statement, what should the target be based on that information? What does technical analysis tell us if this is the bottom? What's the projected top? Look how beautiful this is, huh? If that's the bottom, that tells us, first of all, we're slaughtering all the bears. It's weekly R2 right here. Based on that bottom, this is the weekly candle. If you had a weekly chart, this would be the candle that represents the week we're in now. Okay. Two chucks walk in a bar, one says to the other, "What's up, Chuck?" Yeah. Yeah. The other guy's taller though. Low. So what do you think? Did all right on predicting the fight, huh? Right? I say, here it comes. Here comes the fib wars. Well, Lester says, we'll Draghi talk the euro down and stuff. No, all of this is very interesting, newsworthy stuff. Okay. Look how long I've been saying the euro is going to go up. Look I have arrows drawn through the entire year of last year. This is all of 2017. I mean, look at this. What's Draghi going to say? I mean, like, it's almost becomes irrelevant, doesn't it? Like, gee whiz, just buy the freaking thing, right? So how does technical analysis help? Well, let's take a look. Ooh. Okay. Okay, what is that called? Inverse head and shoulders. And by the way, you can take the size of this inverse crown and you put it to the neckline and it predicts we'll go here, which we did. So anyways, and then you get this little problem, this little dipsy-do, and then we're back up into here. Yeah. Why this little dipsy-do? even a higher time frame. Okay. It could be simply like this, or even, well, let me use a third color here, tertiary. Okay. That's fractal geometry. These are, to me, when I look at these charts, I look at them like old family vacation photos. You're like, oh, I remember that trip. That was cool. So like this one was amazing because we had this fibbed and it took forever to get here. And then we had it all, you know, we talked about it for months getting ready for this. And then it hit and went down, 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 down. It's just fantastic. Just awesome. It was either this one or this one. I have a funny story where I was just talking with she's at CNBC now, but she was at Bloomberg. Oh, what's her name? Sarah Eisen. And I'm like, hey, I can't remember if it was this one or this one. And I'm like, hey man, this is gonna top, this is gonna drop. Send her a chart. And she's totally cool, by the way. I met her in the Bloomberg studios, and I was doing an interview and stuff. And she was just friends with the producer, and she came by and like she's like, hey, what's up? And I'm like, what do you do? I'm like, oh, I'm a currency trader. She's like, oh, I got something you should see. And she goes and comes back, and she's like, check this out. It was a 3D chart of the euro dollar. I'm like, oh, that's so cool. And she was totally excited too. Like, look at this, it's wild, right? So anyways, so she's like, yeah, you should, yes, send me information about, Forex and stuff. And if you see something, let me know. Maybe it's newsworthy and stuff. So whatever. So one of these, I'm like, hey, I think it's going to drop and all that kind of stuff. And then like 5 minutes later, she's on TV and she's like, I can't find anyone that wants to buy the US dollar. And I'm like, what? I just gave you 3 reasons. I have an email somewhere too. And then she's like, nobody says the dollar's going to be strong. And then, of course, I just told her the dollar is going to be strong. So, I have memories in all of these things, right? I have memories. All of these things are amazing little pieces of history. They're not just charts. They're like my children. These candles are like my children. It's cool, man. I bought euro when I first started trading. It was because it was a parity. Well, I was trading while euro was below parity. So parity is here. So I started trading sort of in this period. And apparently that's 2002. Yeah, that's about right. I was probably trading in this actually a little bit. Yeah, well, Katie said, yeah, I think what happened with Sarah is that, she'd been doing her research and written her story and I came in, literally it was just minutes before I saw her on TV. But she's now been hired by CNBC, and she does like the market open now with what's his name, the loudmouth, what's his name, Jim Cramer. I think she and Jim Cramer do the big open now. Really cool. She's totally cool. All right. So, anyways, boop, 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 boop. Okay. Is it surprising that we've run into some resistance here? I don't think so. Okay. The market looks bullish to me or consolidative. And if it's consolidative, the top, if it wants, if it wants to drop now, the top being R1, then the bottom would be S1. But it's too elevated for bears. So it just tells me it's either going to go up now or it's going to go up later. Okay. And what's that big giant black line? What's that big black line? Hope you don't mind me eating my breakfast. Always got to eat. Anybody? What's that giant black line? Monthly central pivot. Thank you. Can we call this, well, so this is a different currency. Kind of looks like the other one we did, but let's talk about it. What's this green zone? That's last week's predicted bottom. But for that bottom to be hit, this would have to have been the top. Wait, that's like freaking perfect. Yeah, I know, right? So, that's done. Then we get a new month, brand new month. And we get this pivot. Let's call this pivot, I don't know, monthly M2. That's a bullish buy. In fact, this whole area for the month of March is actually a bullish buy zone. Only the most aggressive bear would have short trades here. You'd have to be a very aggressive bear. Okay. And if you're an aggressive bear, you have sell orders waiting because it's the monthly central pivot point, and it's the weekly resistance zone. So an aggressive bear is going to think this, but it's probably doubtful and will only get consolidation. But that's fine. It's still right. That's definitely a potential place, right? The most bullish of bulls, however, bullish of bulls is thinking this is a full trip. And they're thinking up, up, up. You guys remember? In here, it was either Friday or Monday. I went through all the yen pairs and showed you that even though there was nothing on this chart to say up, that all the yen pairs were at buying zones. How many people can confirm that? It was either Friday or Monday. Anybody? 3, 4, 5 people. So the question is when, if ever, do you go from a bear to a bull? That's truly like the billion-dollar question. Not because of what I say. Okay? Not because of what I say. Think about it. It's a really important question. Yeah. It's a really important question because it matters as a trader. When do you hold them? When do you fold them, right? When you walk away, when do you run? When does this become bullish? When did this become bearish? Looks like a hammock to me. Okay. Do you think we can get something similar? Right? I don't know. That's for you to figure out. It's beautiful, isn't it? I think it's beautiful. Still some trouble going on here. Remember, it was the middle of the range. I think I had it like this. You'd either sell it here or here as aggressive bears. But because of the monthly, I'm a bull. Because the weekly, it looks toppish. So you can see, however, when we were talking, I was asking people when we were here, in fact, right? I think it was the exact candle. I'm like, who's going to buy it? Who's going to buy it? Who's thinking about buying it? Who's going to buy it? Right? Are they, are they supposed to do that, Katie? No, it's the M2. M2 is the buy, not S2. You know, S2 is a target, not an entry. And what was the conversation on Monday when none of this rally started? I said somewhere in the next 6 weeks, I think there'll be an upward move in all the yen pairs, and it'll last until roughly the middle of June. I don't know if it's Monday or in a week or in a month, but somewhere in that 6 weeks, you need to be open-minded to buying this, even though it's fallen since the second week of the year. My 800 webinars. I think I've done more than 800 webinars. Well, there's, let's say, 52 weeks in a year. Let's just call it 50 times 5 is 250 a year for 15 years. It's way more than 800, right? I mean, it's thousands. It's crazy, right? So anyways, yeah. So what I was trying to say is, look, the news is almost irrelevant. We're looking at fundamentals, which is completely different. News is just news. And that, if you had looked at longer term charts too, you may have set the tone where you're simply bullish and you're buying dips, right? So when Katie said, well, I'm not, when we were here, Katie's like, well, I'm not really sure where it's going, so I'm not going to trade. I'm like, well, you're supposed to know that if you're a bull, your job is to buy dips. This is a dip, right? Yeah, Jacques, Forex.Today and YouTube, right? So like, it's your job, I think I said. It's Katie's job. If you're a bull, you buy dips, and this is a dip. Is anyone going to buy it? Okay. And we could assume that bears were going to be in here somewhere, which I think the amount of consolidation confirms that there were traders there. Right, that's a lot of consolidation. And finally busted out. And notice this big candle is the breakout. This is all these bears giving up. And now they're going to run into some other trouble up in here. These are troublesome trucks, as Thomas would have said, because, you know, this is where you're supposed to get out. Okay. I think if I was in this trade on this scalp or the original news scalp, by the way, right? You remember? The actual scalp was here. The second chance was here, and I called that out. Cool. I think if I had my stop at break even, I'd just walk away. Walk away, walk away. Yeah. Just because, like, nah, it's not a lot of pips, maybe 50 pips. But if you get this lucky, if you get, you know, you figure it's going to go up 200 pips, don't you? Based on the monthly swing, you're like, well, what if this survives? What if this just goes up next week, right? Maybe. I don't know. Unless you need the 50 pips. I'd consider it like a free look. right? You got a free look at the basket, take a shot. Yeah. Take a shot. Yeah. This stuff's funny though, isn't it? Apparently, traders do use pivot points. Okay. Was that the area where I drew two arrows and I'm like, you'd sell here or here, either way, it's kind of the same thing? I think so. But that's why now, you know, all this is over, so whatever. So we'll see, maybe Draghi will say something important. Let's just bust through some of the commodities and call it a day. Wow, look at that one. This was a projected fib war. It went a little higher, but you notice how it went off the roll reversal? This gray area here? Same sort of thing, I suppose. It just ends up being a 786, which is very unconvincing one way or the other. But what I was trying to highlight is when you're trading, you want to be a bull or you want to be a bear, and it's the stuff in the middle that you're going to take your losses on. Right? So like to a bear, you want to sell it as high as possible. You'd prefer it to be up here. That's really where you want it to be. And in these situations, you'll do better. And the cool thing is you'll put your stop just above, and right, and you're fine. And if you're a bull, once again, you want to buy it low as possible. And there's your roll reversal, all that kind of stuff. And it's trading in the middle where you tend to take your losses. Okay. Just you got to burn it into your brain. Find your good entries and get in them at close to the price as possible, so that your stop is actually closer. So what's it going to do now? Does anybody have an idea? Well, you certainly shouldn't sell it. Right? I don't know much, but I know I can't sell you. Like, think of it, like, we know amateurs do it, right? Like, they don't want to sell at resistance. So an amateur is going to wait and sell it at support. Okay? Now, if you're bullish, you need to be cautiously bullish and say, well, I am at support and I could take the shot, but I don't like the fact that we already had a 618 on this and it failed. So, you're kind of looking at maybe getting there. So are you going to put your stop down here then? Well, it depends. If we get a little bounce, you're going to probably keep your stop here, keep it close, and keep some powder dry for this one. Because it could do this. Because this is the better one now, isn't it? That's the bigger support, isn't it? So maybe you'll cut your lot size in half, take a shot here, and let it break, and then put the other half here. Or take a small loss on half, because your stop's close and you're only half the lot size, so it's like 25% risk compared to a normal trade. And if it does drop down here, you want to give this a shot too, because you're like, you know what, actually, I like this better. It's a bigger level of support. I think there'll be more buyers down there. So you buy it there and jam your stop there, and okay. Long at 60. Well, 60 sounds nice, doesn't it? I don't remember drawing this. Looks pretty good though, huh? Looks like I'm saying, hey, look for a double bottom. That's nice. How do you trade a higher high after a double bottom? What's the secret word? Yeah. Text. Never forget that. Right? Look at the analysis we did back then. Look at this. Just beautiful. Look at that. Good job, Wayne. And look at that. Look at it just stop the gold rally. So if you're neutral, you're probably thinking like this for a while. If you're bullish, you're probably thinking this for a while, right? Even then, look at all this. So I already have it pre-marked. We already know there's going to be trouble up there. Cool. La-dee-da-dee-da. Just look at, I'm doing my analysis, bro. So I'm going to clear all that out now that we've looked at it. I'm going to wipe my slate clean. So how many people are bullish? I'm thinking maybe making this a bottom. And the reason I say that is if we get lower than where we are, oops, man, I'm clicking all the wrong buttons today. If we get lower than that gray area, it's not really bullish anymore, right? We end up having a tighter consolidation. Oh, okay. Did Draghi open his mouth? No, look. No, it's just the bears sold. Alex, that's where the bears are supposed to sell. There's nothing crazy going on there. You remember I had two arrows here? Right? I said someone would sell either here. I was on a 1 minute chart though, or here, but to me it's the same thing. It doesn't really matter. Okay. That would be the counter trend trade too. Pete got knocked out of break even. Yeah, if you longed, you certainly got kicked out. But the thing is, should it have changed anything? No, right? Look at that hardcore area, huh? Gee whiz, look at that. Cool. Well, that shows you how much love there is for the counter trend, right? Oh my gosh. Oh, what time is it? Oh yeah, it's late. Yeah, well, try not to get burned, man. Try not to get burned. High volatility. But let me ask you this. Were obvious levels of support and resistance respected by bulls and by bears? It wasn't chaos. Does this confirm that professional traders are using weekly pivot points? I mean, you can really walk away with some valuable stuff, right? I think every individual trade, because I'm worried about the aggregate, right? The interesting thing about worried about the aggregate is every individual trade is meaningless unless you have a singularity in your trading, which means you just blew up your trading account, right? But if you're trading like you're supposed to, every trade is meaningless, right? So because it won't affect the aggregate, because you're looking at the bell curve, not the tails. You don't want fat tails, but you're looking at the curve, and the curve should predict everything. You don't want any tails. You want thin tails. Anyways, the walk away or the takeaway here is that this is an ECB announcement and a press conference and all this stuff's going on. But on a weekly basis, not weekly candles, but on a weekly basis, this did what it was supposed to do. I mean, it could still go up to R2 between now and NFP, right? But on a weekly basis, I look at this and the news is irrelevant. Do you look at it and say, oh my God, well, obviously there was some news? No. Price jack popped up today, hit the M4. It's already established as a top. People obviously took profit. Some people would have shorted. Is it the ECB announcement? Like, you could have completely missed that. Like, if you're just looking at trade history, like what caused this? Oh, the ECB meeting. I mean, no, not really, right? So I think what's important is the pivots still played their role. I think what's important is there's monthly forces going on here, not just weekly. That even with the news release and the volatility that was created on a 1 minute chart, very logical levels of support and resistance were respected by market participants. Both role reversals and pivot points, Fibonacci levels, moving averages. Right? I think that's cool. I think it's really cool. I think those are the bigger things. So if you took a shot today and got knocked out of break even, you had an opportunity. And it shouldn't have been that big of an opportunity. I mean, it shouldn't have been that important. But if you had a shot and then you managed the risk, that's cool. Right? And those extra pips shouldn't have mattered a lot. That's why I said, you know, if it was me, I'd probably move to break even. And then I'd go for the 250 pips because making another 50 pips just falls into the bell curve. And one more doesn't really have an impact. But what if you made 250? All of a sudden, that's to the right of the bell curve, and you have a fat tail on the profit side, and you're like, well, that's good. that would help, right? So I'm like, yeah, go right. Go for the win. Don't go for the tie. Right. So Lester says, I think it's going to the monthly profit zone. Then that should be your trade plan, right? And that's all I'm saying. So, picking on Katie again, I'm like, well, if you believe this is going up there, then you should be trading that. And then manage the risk and buy another dip some other time. Whether you make profit or not, if you bought at support in an uptrend, you would probably make money in most scenarios. Maybe not high volatility ones, but most scenarios you probably should because it's an uptrend, right? And there was one other part that I was going to say now. I've forgotten it. If you're a bull and you think it's an uptrend, I guess that's good enough. I was going to say one more thing. I think you're probably going to be. I don't know. I forget where I just lost it. But you probably will be okay. So if you find yourself saying, well, I don't really know what it's going to do, that's fine. I mean, that's a way of saying there's some risk involved. There's some risk in the market. But then follow that up by like, well, what do you believe? If not now, when, right? Because remember that what you should be practicing is the decision-making process. That's why you should be posting on Forex.Today. You need to practice the decision-making process. Because you're going to need to make decisions. So the yens had fallen for 3, 4, 5 months or whatever it is. I guess it's only been 3 months, right? But I told you that was going to happen. When would you have noticed? Right? And now they've been falling for 3 months, and now they're starting to rise. And I told you that they would probably start to rise. So if I hadn't told you, when would you have decided that, oh, it's gone from bearish to bullish? Because these are important things, right? And now I'm saying, well, the rally could last all the way to the middle of June. What if I'm wrong? When will you notice that it's not rallying anymore? But if I'm right, when do you know to take profit? Right? All that kind of stuff. These are decisions that need to be made. And I would practice making the decisions. Scalping ECB announcement, in particular when he says there's no change, should you be staring at your chart for the next 2 hours? Maybe, I guess. But I think on the long run, you should be thinking of these bigger picture questions, right? Because I know for a fact you don't have to scalp to be successful. Okay? But you're going to need to get these bigger charts right. Okay? And by the way, if you're a bull and you got knocked out, it's your job to buy the 21 again, isn't it? Okay. So anyways, peace on earth. May the pips be with you. May your profits be above average. Thank you very much for being on my team. Thank you for being a client to Traders Way. I will be at FX Street tomorrow for Trade Non-Farm Payrolls Live 143. Yes, Barry, it'll be on YouTube. So, yeah, once again, just thank you. You know, thank you. I know how hard you work at this. I push you to work a little harder, but it's my job. So I appreciate the love and respect that you show me every day, and the patience when I'm not on my A game, when that happens. So thank you. Cool, Guy. Appreciate that. Bye-bye.